Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. So today I want to kind of jump into something. It's kind of an impromptu thing and I thought about breaking it down into two sections or two separate videos, but I think it needs to be one because they kind of go with each other. And what I'm talking about is gentle parenting and generational curses or generational cycles, as some people's families say it. So if this is something that you're interested in and that you want to hear a little bit more about, keep watching. Hi you guys. So today I want to get into talking about gentle parenting and generational curses, as you hear a lot in our community. Well, I want to talk about why we chose to gentle parent. And I think that it's something that needs to be said, especially to the older generation. My husband and I both chose to be gentle parents. We chose to be gentle parents because we grew up in a different type of environment, okay? Where I'm from, you get whoopings. It's just what it is. Your parents whoop you, your grandparents whoop you, your aunties and your uncles whoop you. It's just like a part of, I guess you could say, life. My husband grew up kind of in a similar situation. You get in trouble at school, on your way home, you run into your aunties, your uncles, your grandparents, and everybody hits you with one good time before you get home and have to deal with your actual parents. So when we tell people that we are gentle parenting, we get a lot of comments about, oh, them kids gonna turn out this way, or they'll turn out that way, or that's not how we did it back in the day. Listen, I really don't care, truthfully, and I'm gonna tell you why. Everybody in my family came out differently, and we all got whoopings, okay? I can give you a spot on comparison, right? So I ended up getting into a little bit of trouble back in the day. When I was about 15, 16, I ended up in boot camp. No, not the boot camp military, the boot camp kind of your kid needs to get their shit together. You know what I'm saying? So I ended up in that program. I have a cousin who went to the exact same program. He's in prison. I'm here. See, a lot of this comes down to the choices of the child. Not so much whether you whooped them all the time or they were heavily disciplined or lightly disciplined. I'm not saying no discipline is required. I'm just saying for all of us to have come from the same type of situations, the same environments, we all turned out differently. And I mean, we're just scattered across the board on how we all turned out. And we all got whooped. So to me, if we all got whooped and came out differently, why can't we gentle parent? And the kids will possibly come out differently then too. But what's the difference? That you're kinder to your child? That you listen to them and speak to them like they're humans? When we're kids, it's almost like growing up, sometimes they didn't see us as like people. You know what I'm saying? Like they can talk to you how they want to talk to you. They can whoop you when they want to whoop you. But nobody actually sat down and talked to you. So we talk to our children. They're 5 and 1. But I think I prefer this over what we went through. Because I remember growing up thinking, I'm not going to do this to my kids. I'm going to try to do something different, right? And so that's what I'm trying to do. And I didn't even realize half the time that there was another way, because we're always seeing different things in different communities where kids are acting out and they're doing this. Oh, that's because they're not getting whooped. No, that's because there's a lack of discipline all around. You know what I'm saying? Discipline doesn't always have to mean you got to beat your kid or you got to whoop your kid. It's not what that means. And the kids that are acting crazy, they lack discipline in general. Like no discipline. Those kids you see throwing tantrums and cussing their parents out and smacking them, and those kids lack discipline in general. That's not, yeah. Let me move on because I'm getting worked up. So another thing that we do, a lot of people look at awkwardly, is we allow our children to say no. Do they have to explain the answer that they gave us? Yes. But we allow them to say no, and I'm going to tell you why. If something happens with another adult outside of our home, I want my kid to be able to say no to that person and not feel obligated to have to do exactly what they told them to do if they don't want to. Make any sense? So, for example, I grew up where I felt like teachers were trying to embarrass kids, right? So a teacher would know a kid didn't know the answer, would call them up to the front of the class and make them do the problem on the board anyway. All you're doing is embarrassing that kid in front of their peers, which leads to bullying and all kind of other crap, unnecessary. In those situations, I want my child to be able to say, no, ma'am, I'm not going to do this problem on the board. And if they say, well, why? I told you to get up here and do it. Well, you already know that I don't know the answer to this problem. So if you know I don't know, why would you try to embarrass me in front of everybody instead of just coming over to me and helping me do the problem? Or stopping me after class to help me do the problem? What's the purpose of making me stand up in front of everybody and show them that I don't know what you and I both know I already don't know? I want them to be able to walk up to, because one thing I hated as a kid was having to hug certain people, family included. If my kid is uncomfortable and don't want to hug you, and they say no thank you, there's a no thank you. I want them to be able to articulate exactly why they're saying no, but I want them to be able to say no to people, to situations, to problems that they may run into in childhood and in teenager stages and in adulthood. I want them to be able to say no. If they're uncomfortable, especially, say no. So my kid is allowed to say no. So if we're telling him to do something and he says, no, I don't want to. Okay, well, why don't you want to? See, one of the things that has worked in our favor with the gentle parenting is my child is very comfortable telling us if something happens that's wrong around you, you come and you tell us. And that's what he's done. Even when he does something wrong, he'll come and tell us. For instance, when we moved here, I saw this penny on the floor and everything in my spirit said, pick that penny up. And I didn't. So we're moving around. At this time, I'm about 7-8 months pregnant. We get back to the house. We get some dinner. We're coming to sit down to eat. Our son takes off running into a room. So me and my husband are pulling the food out, about to sit down to eat. And our son comes out and says, Daddy, I swallowed a quarter. He didn't know it was a penny. He thought everything was a quarter. But it was the fact that he came in and said, I swallowed a quarter. And he pointed to his throat. A part of him didn't want to say anything from what he told us because he was worried he's going to get in trouble. Because he does get punishments. There are punishments. There's consequences to his actions. He knows that. But in that situation, he was in trouble. And he was like, I'm just going to tell. See, our kids we speak to them like they're people. We explain to them why we're upset. Right now, if my husband walks up to my son and says, I'm disappointed in you, my son gets so sad. He ain't got to yell and scream and holler at him. You should have did this. Nah. He don't do that. I'm disappointed in you. And I don't want to ever see that again. Do you understand? Works just fine. So why in the world do we have to beat our kids? Why do we have to whip them? And like I was saying earlier, I didn't know there was another way until I got to college. And one of my professors was talking to us and he said, I've never once, he was the coolest, Dr. Webster. Cool guy. He says, I've never whooped my children a day in their lives. I don't have to. I can speak to them. I can talk to them. They understand their people. Walking around here with PhDs, not a ticket, not a warrant, ain't never been in trouble a day. Honor roll students, graduating top of their classes, cum laude and summa cum, all that. And he's never had to whip his children. And I'm thinking, what? Because we got whooped our whole lives. That was normal to us. But it's not. It doesn't have to be that way. There are other ways to handle your children. So that leads me into this next part, which is generational curses and generational cycles. If you're not from certain communities, I'll try to explain it the best I can. It's basically when actions, habits, beliefs, and everything kind of get passed down to the kids, and it circles. So it hits their kids, then it hits their kids, and it hits their kids. For example, the women in my family, a lot of them, because I'm one of the first ones, if not the first one. I can't think of anybody that did it before me. A lot of them make it out of high school without having kids. And then they fall into this routine of barely surviving, right? Then there's always drama in my family. Always some kind of drama, always fighting amongst themselves. People don't show up to certain things. If this person isn't going to be there, these are brothers and sisters I'm talking about, by the way. One ain't going to show up if the other one is going to be there. If they are there with each other, they're going to fight each other. Like, this is the type of stuff that I call the generational curses, generational cycles, the different types of generational trauma. And I'm going to tell you how that directly ties into how we discipline our children. So everything that I just mentioned that happens in my family happened with kids who got whoopings. They all got whoopings. Everybody got whooped. And nobody did anything different. One of the things that bothers me is you talk about slavery and things like that. And one of the big things that they say when we're kids, spare the rod, spoil the child. I used to hate hearing it because it's annoying, right? But why in the world would you use the same tactics of slave masters on your children? If it wasn't right for our ancestors, why would it be right to do to your kids? Whooping them. No, just me? Okay. All right. I was just wondering. The signs I get the most come from, I feel like, people in my family, people within my community, right? And here's what I have to say to that. And I said this to my mom the other day because it doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't, you know what I'm saying, add up, right? So my coaches would always say, the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing, but expecting a different result. So if y'all got whippings and your parents got whippings and you whooped your kids, us, and we're still all across the board, not gonna lie, mostly on the negative side, why would we continue to do that? What sense does that make? If we're wanting something different, if we're wanting a change, we have to try something different. So you can turn your nose up and look at me any kind of way that you want to. But trauma only brings more trauma. And if your kids are running around afraid of you, afraid that you're going to beat the brakes off of them, that's trauma. I don't care how you look at it, it's trauma. Then they say, oh, y'all soft. We soft because we go get help. We're soft because we seek out therapy. We're soft because we don't hold everything in. It's funny to me because they've held everything in. And a good chunk of them, not even a good chunk, most all of them still ain't got their shit together. How that work for you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looked like it ain't working. See, we get called certain names, especially in my family. They want to say that you think you better than us and you bougie and you uppity and you, because I want better for my kids. Because I want them to grow up and not have to deal with some of the traumas that I grew up with. I'll take it. I'll be everything you want to call me, but my kids will not have to live through some of the things that I lived through with my family. These folks is rough, okay? Let me tell you how rough. My family, I'm from a small town in Arkansas. We are known around the state, mainly in the area where my family is, and then there's some further beyond. And I'm gonna tell you how I knew it was further beyond. But what they're known for is not something that's great. Not that we crazy or not my family is crazy, but my family will handle you. They're known for handling people. They known for if you run up, you get done up. They known for talking crazy. And you know how I knew this? So we lived in that small town where I'm from until I was about 12. When I was 12, we relocated to another city within Arkansas. I go into my middle school and I'm going into math class. And I remember her name was Miss Marrried. That was my teacher's name. And she wanted me to introduce myself essentially to the class because I was new. And once I introduced myself, she asked me if I had family in the area. And I said, yes, ma'am, I do. And then I said the name of my family and she dropped her head and said, oh, Lord, not another one. Because my cousins had come before me and just got into all kinds of trouble. Now, I wasn't that kid, you know what I'm saying? If I have to handle a situation, I will. But I'm not a kid that's going to just start mess. I do my work, keep my head down, stay out of trouble. I'm polite to everybody. Everybody knows me, but they know me from good things. But that was her response to me. Oh, Lord, not another one. I was like, what? What are you talking about? And then she mentioned my cousins' names. I said, oh, yeah, those are my cousins. And she said, okay. She just walked up to the front, sat down. See what I'm saying? So if that's my family and that's the reputation, when I tell you it's drama, it's drama. My mom is the baby of 15. You heard that correctly. My grandparents had 15 children together, and my granddad cheated on my grandmother and had 2 on the side. So she's technically the baby of 17 because even the other 2 are older than she is. They can't stand each other. Not my mom. My mom seems to be kind of the one that's like the outlier. She pretty much deals with everybody. She don't cause no problems. She's usually really quiet, and she's a baby girl, right? Then you got them ones that they can't stand each other. They won't be in the same room with each other. They talk bad about each other to the other ones. And then you got some of them, they just won't even come around. I got some aunties I haven't seen in like a decade. It ain't nothing against us. They just don't want to deal with their siblings. And once you get around all of them at once, you completely understand. I have some family members who skipped their parents' funerals to avoid their siblings. You know how bad that is? That you skipped your mom or your dad's funeral to avoid seeing one of your siblings? That's what we talk about when we say generational curses and generational cycles in our family. They want to keep everything quiet, keep it within the family. You don't got to go talk to nobody and get no help. How are we supposed to get anything different if that's what we keep doing? I got some aunties that's like mad, bipolar, manic. Like for real, will completely just one day fly off the complete, just gone. They know that there's some mental health issues within our family, but nobody will get help. They just walk around and act crazy, and everybody just ignores it and pretends it didn't happen. And nobody addresses it. Nobody is held accountable, which is why I don't go around very much. Because I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to say it. And if you don't like what I got to say, I would suggest you don't roll up on me, because it's going to be a problem. So I just avoid my family. But in order for me to get something different from my kids, I had to do that. You can cut off your family. If you don't have a choice, you do what you got to do. And I still talk to my cousins and things like that, but I don't go to family functions, and I don't show up to certain things. Why? So they can stare at my kids because we don't pop them every time they do something wrong? Or so we can keep hearing these slick comments? My kids are great. My 5-year-old, who's supposed to actually be a grade behind, is ahead. A year ahead of where he's supposed to be education-wise. He cleans his own room. He knows how to bathe himself. He knows how to feed himself. He listens when you tell him stuff. Very articulate. I'm not going to expose him to certain things just because you're family. Absolutely not. So to some of my cousins, love y'all. Hope to see y'all soon. But I can't do it to my kids. So this is why we gentle parent. We're doing something different because we want to get something different. But we can't keep doing the exact same thing on repeat and then expecting something to change. Like I got side eyes because people found out I was taking medicine for anxiety. People in my family know what they do when they have anxiety and panic attacks, and when they're depressed, they drink, they smoke, they party. See, I did all the things that I did, I feel like, in spite of my family, because I feel like a lot of people expected me to follow in those footsteps, and I refuse to do it because it's about the choices that you make. I chose something different. And there are so many things that you have to unlearn when you grow up in certain types of environments. I don't want my kids to just be afraid. Don't get me wrong, it needs to be a little bit of fear, especially when they're younger. You know what I'm saying? The fear eventually turns into a level of respect, because then they start to realize that you're not trying to hurt them. You're not trying to lead them astray. You're trying to help, right? But that comes with a level of understanding, a level of growth. And a 5-year-old won't get that. So right now, the thing that will scare my 5-year-old to do what he needs to do is if you get stern. If my husband's voice gets a little bit, and I'm not even talking about him yelling. I'm saying, just like I told you guys earlier, when he says, I'm disappointed in you, and I don't ever want to see that again. My 5-year-old breaks down. So when I say a little fear is needed, I do think that is, especially when they're younger, they don't understand. And they're just going to keep doing and testing the boundaries until something stops them. Which sometimes you do the mom stare, they call it, when you stare at them. You know what I'm saying? When you give a mom stare, that'd be enough. So it's not necessary to whoop your kids, I don't think. But it all starts with how you begin to raise them. You can't wait till they're 7 and they wild out here cussing out teachers and yelling, acting crazy, and then try to do this, because you can't gentle parent a kid that isn't gentle anymore. This has to start when they're young. You have to start setting expectations when they're little. So there were certain things that our son understood by the time when he got to a point where he could understand 1-2-year-old, you cannot do this. No, don't do that. There were certain things that we started to instill in him then, including the things with his education. Stuff that he watched on TV, we didn't have him watching any old thing. He spent most of his time watching PBS Kids. He had a tablet. His tablet was limited. He couldn't access certain things on that tablet that had the parental locks on it. So he could only watch and play certain things. It starts with what you put in your child. That's what you're going to get out. Okay, you guys, I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it was informative. I hope that it helped someone, especially the parents out there who are gentle parenting, who are trying to do something different for their kids. I hope this encourages you to keep going, because we're going to keep going with ours. We don't want to change anything up for our kid, because our kid is a great kid. We want to keep him that way. So I want to thank you again for watching. If you have not already, I would love it if you like, comment, shared, and subscribed. And I hope I'll see you guys in my next video.